Sup, y'all? It's been a while. About 3 months probably by now. Sorry I've been gone for so long. There's been a lot of weird stuff happening in my life. And it's been hard to find a moment to really sit down and sort of dedicate. Previous videos have been between, I don't know, 5 minutes and like 20 minutes long. And so setting aside 20 plus minutes to create an edit and make a script, etc., has been hard to find. Part of the reason for this is that I've had a change of living situation. As you might be able to see, there is no closet door behind me anymore. And that has come because where my partner and I were previously living is notoriously one of the most expensive counties, just by rental versus like opportunities and cost of living generally in our state. And that just got to be untenable at a certain point. So we are moved in with my mom, which is not really what I wanted to have happen, but here we are trying to make it work. I am not out to anybody in my family. I lied. I'm adopted. My adopted family has no idea who I am. My biological family totally knows, with a couple of exceptions. Maybe I'll get to that later. But one of the most crushing things for me this has just been a total disruption to everything in my life, from like my ritual of like going to the gym to the kinds of food I got access to the general atmosphere I'm able to have in the house. And it's been pretty rough, I gotta be honest. I'm unemployed as well, which isn't great for self-esteem. And I'm trying to fix that, but for tens or possibly 100 plus applications that I've sent out by now, I haven't really gotten any offers. In more positive news, you might notice that the whole pony hawk situation has been rectified. It got really annoying, having to deal with the side growth, which just creeps in kind of without you realizing it, and then suddenly you look like you have this weird like reverse mullet situation. And I got sick of it, and then it turned out after I got my hair cut really short that I actually felt a lot more comfortable and confident having the shorter hair. This is the first time that I've worn my short hair curly in my entire life. Like previous to this, it was either too short to be curly or I would straighten it. Predominantly, I had no idea what I was doing with curly hair, so that was a big part of it. But the other thing was that I had convinced myself that there was a certain like masculine aesthetic that I was really into and that I wanted this for myself. But the truth is, at this stage of transition, I can words, as well as just given the specific kind of haircut that I had, that was not going to happen alongside my getting gendered correctly or gendered masculine. So I gotta say that this has led to much more euphoria than my previous haircut, which is a nice change. Dysphoria has been pretty gnarly recently for reasons I'll get to. But I wanted to go through the timeline of basically the past 3 months at this point, because maybe it was month 2 that was my last month that I reported on, so maybe it's been more like 2 months. So relatively unchanged has been libido, still high, still less affected by mood significantly than before, and I adore this, I really do. And it's funny because I find that as much as like the lack of libido has been less impacted by if I'm feeling bad. Sort of like, I have had moments where I'm feeling moody, and if I have sex or if I masturbate, then I stop feeling that way. So, food for thought. Relatively unchanged also is sort of where my gender identity is. I discovered this beautiful word, agender flux, and this has to do with a range of gender sensation / identity that ranges in intensity from agender, so not having gender at all, to either in the direction of masculine, feminine, or both. And I feel like that describes my experience pretty well. So for now, I'm using a gender flex as well as gender fluid to describe me. Definitely still feeling masculine with femme qualities. With that said, therefore, my lovely family, to whom I am not out, constantly gendering me as their daughter, and like just there are various like weird subtle ways that this comes up. Okay, like I mean that's another video perhaps, but it's been tough. So going back to the timeline, between 2 and 3 months, I started to crop up with what I was afraid of happening, cystic acne. That has been a lot of not very much fun to deal with. Mostly, like, I never dealt with acne pretty much at all, really, when I was a teenager. Like, when I was around 14, 15, I had, like, a couple of zits here or there. But really, that's it. That's all I ever had to deal with. And so I'm used to the kind of thing that you just kind of go in the mirror and you pop it and it goes away, and it's not super scarring and it doesn't stick around for a long time. But with the cystic acne, you cannot do this. You know, I don't even know if like a dermatologist goes in and like really pops those. I think the goal is to get what's in there to come out through other means, like. And in the time that I began to experience cystic acne, I also discovered that I have a certain skin type, which is also very sensitive to hard water. And where we were living before has tremendously hard water. So it was like this awesome synergy of my skin being more oily and more acne prone, but also more sensitive and just irritated all the time. So I don't have as many spots right now, and I have a couple theories as to why that is. But that was the thing that happened. 2 to 3 months, I also feel like I began to notice more of that teenage angst, kind of being more sensitive to like rejection and stuff like that. And again, this could have a number of causes that may not be related to transitioning, but it was something that I hadn't noticed so much before, but which crept in. 3 months to 3.5 months is where I started to see some more exciting stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about is voice change. If there's been a change to my voice, I live with my voice every day, so it's hard for me to tell. But I have this app on my phone. It's called Voice Pitch Analyzer, and it's a free app. You can totally go on the App Store. I think this has an Android version as well. And it will record your voice and tell you where in a range of masculine to feminine your voice lies. And so I actually tested my first video, and it was like squarely between androgynous to like feminine. But a couple of weeks ago when I tried it, I think this was a couple weeks ago now, it put me like top of the range was like still in androgynous, but it had me going lower. And I noticed that if I'm careful to like use chest voice rather than talking so much from my throat, then I do get a nice deeper sort of thing happening with my voice, which is awesome. I'm in love. I find myself like singing to lower pitches of songs that I like, or songs that I previously couldn't sing along to, now I can. I haven't really had that dramatic, like stereotypical, like voice cracking in the middle of your sentence kind of a situation. Whatever, you know, it's a thing. 3.5 months-ish, I also noticed that definitely bottom growth has been a thing. So things are looking different down there, as well as feeling different. At first, it kind of felt like things might be feeling different, but it was too subtle to tell. But I ran some stuff by my partner, and she says that, yes, there's definitely been a change. So it's interesting. Like, when it comes to bottom growth, it's not as though you sprout a dick. I'm sorry, you just don't. Hate to burst anyone's bubble. That's not what happens. But one of the first things that happened for me, at least, is that, so like, this is going to get graphic, so feel free to skip ahead. The clitoral hood kind of attaches close to the base of the clitoris, or the tip of the glans clitoris. And one of the first changes I noticed was that this kind of started to get looser and come apart a little bit from the glands. So it's not as though I have like a foreskin per se, but I feel like it would be more analogous to that. Definitely enlarged glands. And again, I think that that is partially to do with what I mentioned about the clitoral hood. It's just that there's more there that is visible. And also increased vascularity is something that I've mentioned in the past. It feels more like a boner. It just does. It's fun. I actually really like it. And 3.5 months-ish also, I began to notice that I have thicker hair in some places that I was already growing hair. So like downstairs area totally has more going on than previously. And I think I have more armpit hair as well. But I've also seen some new hair growth. So right around 3.5 months, I started to see some baby peach fuzz up here and kind of down here as well, which is really exciting because I was pretty well convinced that this would happen much later. Another thing I've started to notice is that I have a little bit of back hair, which wasn't really something I had in mind, but I don't know. The medicine's working, right? So that's kind of what I have been the most excited about. I've continued to have some darkening like along my belly. Like I haven't seen the kind of growth of hair like I have on my chest proper, which you cannot see because it is covered. And that would be more graphic than I feel comfortable showing to you. But it's definitely darker, and I could see that in maybe the next couple of months it would start to really fill out. Yay. And so, today is actually the 4-month anniversary exactly of when I started tea. And I just shaved my mustache for the first time in the past couple of days. And this was totally like an exciting experience for me. Like the entire week or two previous, I had just sort of like looked in the mirror like, I can't really tell if what I'm seeing is real or not. But I think it's real. It was. There's a mustache happening. It's very small. It's very light. And I love the shit out of it. Even if I don't intend to really like grow it out. Where am I at now? Unfortunately, it's looking like I might have to be off of tea for the next couple of weeks. And this is a situation I was really, really trying to avoid. And in retrospect, there are a couple of things I could have done, in the month of January or in the month of December even, to try and mitigate what's happening now. But basically, so as I've mentioned, I've been using patches, and as early as like my first or my second video, I think I mentioned that patches, one of their downsides is that they're among the most expensive of the tea options. Like another option I had asked about was gel, and it turns out gel even is like half the price or less than the patches I was using. And I think I mentioned this before. Part of the reason for that is that the patches are brand name only. I think the gel is also brand name only, but who the fuck knows? Like Androderm, looking at you like you're not making this easy for us. Androderm becomes generic like a bull in 2023. So I don't know. Maybe if I get sick of injections at 2023, I will go back to patches. I feel like overall the patches have done fine for me. And the only downside really has been their cost. Because they're brand name only and because they're so expensive, insurance frequently doesn't want to cover it or doesn't want to cover as much of it. And so I mentioned that I'm out of school and I have been unemployed. And so I'm currently on my state's version of Medicare. And I just had a lovely conversation after 3 weeks of fighting on the issue, PS, that medi-cal doesn't quote unquote cover brand name medication, which I'm pretty sure is actually not true. Just that in this specific case, they were like, whoa, wait a minute, like this thing is way more expensive than anything else. Why aren't you using a generic? And I gotta say, the frustrating thing about T patches and injections is that it, as far as I've experienced with my doctors, I should say, it hasn't been as simple as, so your Vyvanse isn't covered, get Ritalin long acting, which is totally generic, and GoodRx has it for like $20 a pop or something like that. My doctors have all been very like encouraging me to stay with the patches, but also like if I were to really insist on injections, they would want to be there for like my first few appointments to walk me through doing it, which is great, except now I'm in the situation that I'm out of patches and my prescribing doctor for my refills for my patches is in Santa Cruz, where we used to live. And so I don't have a local provider, and the earliest appointments I found for local providers are 3 weeks out that I've had to schedule these. Not a great situation, and I was really hoping to avoid this, but here I am. So I've had a lot of trouble accessing medication. I've had trouble accessing other medication too, so it's not just the T with medi-cal. But I do have appointments scheduled with both the UCLA Gender Health, which is a thing that exists, as well as LA LGBT's Trans Center. I have an intake scheduled with the LA LGBT on the 27th. I have my UCLA Gender Health appointment on the 21st. So I'm hoping that in the meantime, my previous prescribing doctor for T is willing to send me scripts for T, but like maybe I can get the pharmacist to help me administer. I don't know. In any event, currently I'm using old patches and it sucks. It really does. Learn from my fail, basically, is what I'm getting at here. I mentioned dysphoria with my living situation, and I don't really know what I want to do with that. My mom and I just had like a humongous fight to do nothing with this, but if ever she finds my channel, hi mom, I'm trans, it's a thing. But like other factors about my living situation have made it so that I feel tremendously uncomfortable coming out. My partner is living here with me, with my mom, which is nice, but she also had like a bunch of previously scheduled things. And so I haven't really had her around to like lean back on when my parent is doing strange things. On the bright side though, so I forget if I mentioned my GC2B binder in a previous video, but I had one previously that I got from my school's LGBT Center, donated, basically, that I was in love with. And somehow in the move, or like maybe while we were visiting friends or something, it got lost, and I was devastated because my only other binder is like an Underworks binder from 2014 that had been like my only binder up until I got the GC2B. And so needless to say, it wasn't really doing the job anymore. My only other things I have are sports bras. And as you can see, a lot of these are kind of meant to shape you and rather than like conceal you, obviously. But I was able to find through the LA LGBT a program where if you are a person who is in need, if you're like me and you are kind of in dire straits financially and you can't afford to buy yourself a binder, but damn it, the dysphoria is just killing you, you can send them an application explaining your situation, and potentially if they happen to have like your size combination on hand at the time, you can go to them and they will give you a binder. And so I just recently did that for myself. And my previous binder was a size too small anyway. So definitely it was better that I have the proper size versus the one that I was leaving in Santa Cruz somehow. But that just happened yesterday, and it's wonderful. And just all the good feelings. I've also shout out to Out of the Closet because my partner and I were visiting an area where they have just recently opened a brand new store. And while I was there, I was able to find like 3 or 4 really cute men's shirts that flattered my body, but didn't like super accentuate like the chesticle region in a way that was dysphoria causing. And in combination with my binder, they've been awesome. So there is another one near where I am. So as I've implied, I'm in Los Angeles. And I know that West Hollywood has at least one location. So I'll be back out of the closet. All things considered, I think things are going pretty well, you know, despite the setbacks. I can't wait to go back on T. I'm hoping to start injections pretty soon, and honestly, I need to be doing better self-care than I've been doing. I've been kind of a hermit in the last month, and it's just like it's adding to a bad situation emotionally, you know what I'm saying? I'm excited to see my mustache continue to grow. I'm not sure what that will look like if I have to be off of tea for a period of weeks. You know, I don't anticipate it'll stop growing, but maybe it'll come in more slowly. We'll just have to see. And two other things. One is the Trans Lounge offers a bunch of supportive classes and like get-togethers and meetups. This is through the LA LGBT Center. And there's a class coming up called Masculinities, which I guess has to do with you can do anything from like hear other people talk about how they are being masculine and things that make them feel masculine, anything from that to like training yourself how to like walk or talk differently so that you get misgendered less, apparently. That sounds bad. I know passing culture is toxic, but honestly, you know, like it seems to me that there's some merit to the idea that I've been misgendered consistently despite having facial hair and a deeper voice, etc. You know, it is hard to feel like there's something that I could be doing that would just fix that. Even though I'm not a man, but I feel weird about what I've been experiencing with respect to that. And lastly, often late at night after arguments with my mom, I find myself vigorously searching for a chosen name. As you may imagine, the name on my channel isn't actually my legal name, but the name that is my legal name is like irrevocably feminine. Like there's no masculinizing it at all. It's just one of those, you know, like Eve, for example. Like, that's just a feminine name. Or I should say it sounds feminine to a lot of English-speaking ears. And there's no way to really turn that and make it masculinized. My name's not Eve. Disclaimer. But I find myself like, I originally chose Thaniel for this channel from Nathaniel, which, I don't know, sounded kind of cool. One of the features that I liked about Nathaniel is that you can turn it into like short forms and nicknames and stuff. And this is not an experience that I've been able to have with my name from birth. And it's something I kind of want for myself. So I don't know. I like Thaniel, and a name that I've always liked in general is Tobias, but I don't know if I feel like I can use that for myself and feel comfortable. I've tried on a couple of chosen names in the past, and as my friends can attest, none of them have seemed to stick. But that's that. Sorry it's been so long, and I hope this video wasn't too long. But hopefully we'll see some improvements and some good changes coming in the next couple of weeks. You know, if not immediately, then at least 3 weeks down the line, I'm hoping I'll be able to start doing injections, and we'll just have to see from there. Honestly, it's been amazing to me how much better I do feel like in my body and just mentally about having more tea in my system overall, despite all the struggles. And I've seen it kind of come out in weird ways that probably, again, would best suit themselves for another video. But until next time, may you all have an excellent, you know, hopefully not 2 months this time, but see you when I get there. Toodles.